All right, how's everybody doing tonight? Okay? All right, we're going to go over your take-home, which is going to be assessing risk assessment, risk identification on some RBC assets. Specifically, we're going to be going over RBC account password, whether the policy for that, whether you found one, can find one, if you think it's secure or not. How can this account password be exploited? Do students know how to change password? And do students know what a secure password is? And so these are questions you can ask other students outside of this class. When you take other classes or email some students you know. And so the 4 steps we went over on Tuesday, which is the risk identification steps. First, you got to inventory what the assets are. 4, in this case, is going to be accounts. What assets are there to do with accounts? We'll talk about that in a second, how to come up with that. I'll give you a few helps for that. And then 2, determine what threat agents are existing against those assets. 3, determine whether vulnerabilities exist. It can be exploited by surveying the current security infrastructure or lack of security structure. And then make decisions regarding what to do. Remember Tuesday we talked about minimize the risk. Minimize the risk, attack the risk, or accept the risk, or ignore the risk, I believe. We added that one too, ignore the risk, which a lot of companies do. The URL there on the scenario is myRBC. I didn't go any deeper than that. That's just the main launch page. But some students, believe it or not, don't even know that exists. You might be, well, how is that possible? Some students have never used their RBC email. That's pretty crazy. All right? And so ask around some of this information. Some students, well, not say some, probably majority of students leave the same same password that they've had when they reset it initially. So let's go ahead and go over some of these. First is the assets and attributes of an account. This, in this case, is going to be the user account information. So real quick, I'll go ahead and start it out. We'll go ahead and look at student data. Okay, student data as an asset. And that's kind of a global look at it. Student data itself as an asset. Because with authentication into like, say, online services, you can do certain things as a student. There are certain things you can get a hold of, meaning what? If you log into online services, those of you who have done that, what type of information, if somebody got your account information, can they obtain in student services? There you go. So let's start out just numbering some of these. We'll just do financial. Keep going. Somebody else? Grades. What else? What else? Password reset. They could just reset the password, right? What else? What was that? And this is off the top of your head. We're not looking at it. This is what you know already. Okay? You'll find out more probably as you get into it. So what else do you think they can find out? Can they find out your address? Address. And what did you say? I'm sorry? Schedule. So we'll do address, your schedule. So every entity that has to do with you as a student through online services is an asset. You could break each one of these down as an asset. Okay? And remember, each asset has an attribute as well. Each one of these has an attribute. Financial attributes are far-reaching. What are some financial attributes of you personally, or let's do generic John Doe? What's a financial attribute of this asset that could actually, we'll look at it monetarily here, totally tonight, just total money. Just we'll look at it financially. So financially, as an attribute of financial, the asset financial, what are some attributes of that you can think of? What is it? Taxes. All right. Now, could this mess up possibly if somebody did something wrong? Could it mess up your future chances for loans, things of that nature, credit score, stuff like that? So we'll just put in here, their identity, your financial identity. I'll just put credit, financial credit, credit info. All right, so taxes, credit info. Now let's go to the grades part. Hopefully you don't pay for your grades, but there is dollar amounts as far as the attribute of grades attributed to that. One being your financial aid or loans are actually tied explicitly to your grades and what they are. Do I? Yeah, your GPA. Really, there's not much they can manipulate, though, on the grade side on online services. They can view them, but there's not much they could do with that. I guess if it was just malicious stuff or mean stuff, if they knew you were sending your unofficial transcript to other colleges, maybe attaining it and changing stuff on that and sending it to that place. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Because if they had access to your username and password, they could see your email and communication that you've had and say, okay, you sent yours to 5 universities and you got it from online services, because you can download an unofficial transcript on online services. And most colleges and registration will take an unofficial initially during registration to look at. And so they could manipulate that possibly. And that could affect your admission possibly, which could cost money. Because when you apply to some of these colleges, well, a lot of these colleges actually charge a fee for admissions. Now, Rock Valley College, I don't believe does, but I believe some universities, I know they do, because 2 of them I went to charged $150, $200 just to apply to the college. And so if you lost out of that, that's the money. But not only that, if it was a prestigious college you've always wanted to go to, you could lose your lifetime of making money that had to do with that education that you would have gotten at that college. So it's far-reaching there. So we'll talk about grades. We'll just talk about, we'll just say lifetime accumulation of money. All right. SSN, let's talk about how that's tied to money. How's that? Yeah, so credit score. Anything else? Yep, your identity, definitely. Bless you. And let's go ahead and hit one more. We'll hit the password reset on another page here. So password reset. Somebody's mentioned that. So say they did get into your account, they got your account information, they did a password reset. What's an attribute of password reset that they can do with that? Once they've reset it, what could it affect? What type of other items? Yeah, everything you do. So you're talking about your email, online services, Eagle. Okay. Now these are things we know they could access, right? We already know that. But think maliciously here, I guess. If they had access to, let's say, email and Eagle, what are some malicious things they could do that could damage your character? What was that? I'm sorry. Threats, and what was yours? Right. So there could be from the email, threats sent out, and believe it or not, this is not as easy as you think to prove it wasn't you. Okay? You can say maybe the police could prove that yes, this person compromised your account, but did they compromise it before you sent the email? That's your word against theirs. They could say they didn't do it. Yeah.
When there's like a password reset,
Uh-huh.
do you guys have like a record of that though? Like a time?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, there's going to be logs of all that. Definitely. Yeah. But it's still, once it's all said and done, you could have already been through maybe a week or two of litigation before you get it all cleared up. And then you're going to have some people that, even though you get your name cleared on it, some companies, some colleges will be like, red flag. I mean, because you and I know maybe that happened to you, but a person in another state, in another college will be like, it could be passed over because of that, by somebody getting your account information. So we have threats. We have, what else could be done with email Eagle besides threats? Somebody said something else. Somebody mentioned something else besides that. Anybody?
Get bad grades on your homework.
There you go. We could actually sabotage your homework. Why not? All right? And that could drop your GPA, which by the time you prove it, could already maybe be on your unofficial transcript, and it's too late to get into the college of your choice for next semester. You waste a year. So, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, if they hit it at the right time, you could go into online services and and that is really, if they do it at the right time, it could cut off your financial aid to where you couldn't even reassign those classes later. Yeah, that's definitely critical. And so just a simple username, password. We think it's so harmless. What could people actually do with it? But it's tied to everything. You log into the computers with it here. You log into Eagle. You log into your email. Same username, password in all three environments. Used to, a couple semesters ago, we had three separate databases. We had a database for EdNet, which was the email client we used. We had a database for computer authentication, Active Directory, and online services. So three separate databases at one time. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, we've now merged them into one. That's why I'm not going to mention it, but there is a place where you can find a password reset somewhere on the website. And when you do that, it does reset your accounts, all your accounts. So computer, email, RBC Eagle, online services, I guess it'd be four accounts, all in one. So used to have to be, maybe if they got into one and got somebody some information, at least there was two other ones out there that maybe they couldn't get into because of maybe, now granted, sometimes people would use the same password for all three accounts, but it was three separate databases. So it was an annoying thing for students because if they logically they thought, well, if I reset my password here, it's going to reset them everywhere. That's not how it happened. That's not how it worked. So they changed it all to be a little easier for students. But anytime you make things easier security-wise or more convenient security-wise, there's more of a chance of security breaches happening. And that's what we're talking about tonight. There's more of a chance of things being abused, systems being abused. Okay, let's go back to, these are all really good. Let's go back to the questions, I guess. The first one is, do you think in your mind, well, we went over the inventory and assets. Number two, determine what threat agents. We talked a little bit about that already. Threat agents, in this case, would be what or whom. It doesn't have to be a person, by the way. Threat agent does not have to be a person. So let's talk about threat agents for a second against your assets. So let's start out. I'm going to go and throw one in here. I'm going to do a threat agent of malware. Say malware gets on your computer, and the malware grabs all of the data it can find, kind of like the man-in-the-middle attack we did, which would grab all your username and password information that it can find on your computer, and then the hacker then begins to explore getting into certain accounts via RBC, via bank accounts, via whatever. Okay, all done through a malware or maybe a Trojan horse type of application. Okay, somebody else think of another threat agent besides malware. Yeah, spyware, definitely. Anybody else?
Default settings.
Yeah, keeping your, good one. Yeah, keeping your defaults. Whatever those are, when you guys set up your account, I don't know what they are. Does somebody newly sign up to register or whatever? Anybody do that this semester and this is your first time? Can you tell us what that process was, maybe, on registering? Or is it, those of you that remember when you did that? Anybody been here short enough period? Because if you've been here over a year and a half, you are kind of in the dark, probably, on the new system. You need to ask students that just started this semester, though, because I know when you first register now or first sign up, they have to go through some area on the website, I believe, to do this, to change their password, their initial password, I believe. But if they keep it default and they don't do that, say a student doesn't do that for 2 or 3 weeks at the beginning of the semester, what's to stop anybody who has that student's information from going in and doing that? Again, I know there's certain questions they ask them probably about their person, about their, to verify who they are. I don't know. I don't know if it's just birth date. I don't know if it's student ID, I'm guessing, last name. It's been a while since I've been on that. In fact, I've helped a few students this semester in my Excel class, and they had to set up through the network change password area. And I do remember them having to maybe put in their last name and their student ID and birth date or something. That's like pretty easy to find, I'm guessing, if somebody wanted to find it. So defaults, definitely a good one. What else would be a threat agent?
Public PCs.
What is it?
Public PCs by multiple people.
Public, what was it again? I'm sorry.
Public PCs like these ones.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Yeah, public.
Actually save the password.
Yeah, exactly. You're right, because I don't know how many times I've walked by students that are leaving their computer for the night or for the day, and they're still logged in.
Better when they leave their Facebook out.
Yeah, just leave their Facebook up. Why not? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, public PCs definitely is going to be a threat agent for sure. Now, what about folks from outside or entities from outside of the college? I think I mentioned one Tuesday over break of the emails that came in from outside the campus on the web mail email that came in that said, where your RBC's IT department is now resetting webmail. We need you to reply with your username and password so we can verify and validate that you are, whatever bogus thing they said in there. Anyway, does that happen? Well, it does happen. I just said it happened. Okay. What percentage off the top of your head, if every student in Rock Valley got an email like that, just a guess, and it's, just your guess, but what average student would, if it looked fairly official, the email, as far as no spell check, spelling errors or grammatical issues, what percentage of students do you think would reply to an email like that? Just off the top of your head. You think, how many thinks at least 50%? At least half, maybe. How many thinks between 10 and 30% would do it? Okay, that's everybody's hands then right there. Between the 50 and 10 and 30, that's everybody's hand here raised. Okay, that's pretty scary. All right, now what that tells you is a couple things. Education. We're school, right? And so how difficult would it be during the school year, whether it be to pass out a one-page paper at the beginning of the semester, or have each instructor give out this piece of paper and go over 5 or 6 guidelines to help you with account policies and procedures and email etiquette. Just a real quick, it wouldn't have to be a technology teacher per se. Just, it could be created by IT, given to each student, saying you have to read this and sign it. Take what, 5-10 minutes of the class time at the most. And it wouldn't have to be every class would do. You could target just a few classes that most every student takes, possibly. I don't know. there's probably a way to do it. That way every student in there at least gets to see it, hear it, and sign something in the effect. Now, will they still, after that? Definitely there will be still this, but you might save a good percentage if they're educated some in that. Now, also, a lot of colleges have areas on their website to educate students in this regard. We could have that as well. I don't know. We might have that. I don't know if we do. The last time I checked, I don't think we had much on educating on passwords and things of that nature. And so maybe something like that. I don't know. Might be an answer. So what you guys are going to do is, in just a second, we'll talk about that. You're going to come up with ideas like I just mentioned to not only come up with what the assets and attributes are like we've done already, what the threat agents are we've done already, and then determine the vulnerabilities. But the fourth one is making decisions. There's going to be some of the things you find you're going to be like, well, it's just a liability. We're not going to be able to really change much on whatever area it is. But maybe we can do something here on maybe education on password security or email etiquette or spyware or whatever. Just a real quick cheat sheet to help people understand basic technology and how the world works today with identity theft and things like that. Nothing real brain surgery type literature, just a one-page. It could be put up in the student center, and a whole bunch of different things could be done with it. So let's go to the third one before we go to the fourth. What vulnerabilities exist and can be exploited by surveying the current infrastructure? Now, this is a personal point of view for you, okay? Personal viewpoint on this one for everybody when you come up with this one. So, again, this one's going to be look at the vulnerabilities. Probably spelling it wrong. Vulnerabilities of the current structure. So you're talking about, okay, security or lack of security. Okay. Policies. Question mark. Education. Protocols. Okay. Let's start with the first one, security. What security, if any, is there on passwords? What are they? What is the security? The length, the mnemonics of it, alphanumeric symbols. What are they? Also, talking about public computers, there are ways in the public computers to time out logins after a certain inactivity for students that may leave, which they do, leave their computer unattended. Education, tons of education, or the lack of education issues on maybe security and the policies. And then protocols, like are you ever prompted to change your password throughout your time period here on campus? Are you forced to change your password certain times here on campus? So those are questions to ask. And, vulnerabilities, you guys can think of tons of them. I'm guessing, being a student, you see every day, you walk by students every day, you're in classrooms with students every day, you see what each other does on the computer, good, bad, and ugly. And so, you see more than we see as faculty and staff probably. And so what are we vulnerable to here on campus? And so you need to kind of switch your gears of a student perspective from maybe like an administrative IT person, thinking of ways to how the campus is vulnerable right now with the advent of password and username password scenario. Okay? So then, once you come up with the vulnerabilities, we went over again the inventory of the assets, determine what threats, determine what vulnerabilities are there and how it can be exploited. Then you got to make some decisions. Making decisions, remember from Tuesday, when you make decisions, in fact, I think I've got a slide here on that somewhere. The last one, risk mitigation. Decide what to do with the risk, diminish it, transfer it, or accept it. And I think I added one more, which was ignore it, right? So you go over these steps, these 5 steps actually, find out the asset. We put the 2 together, the asset, then the threat, who they are, where they could come from, what weaknesses are there, then assess everything on the 1, 2, and 3, assess, and come up with your what could happen if, for instance, an account information was taken, and then decide what to do with it. There are going to be some things that are just going to be accepted, but there are some things you maybe can write down that could diminish the risk from happening, diminish somebody's account from being taken, diminish someone from getting their online services account accessed unauthorized. And so you can think of ways to do that. And it's just a real quick paragraph or 2 answer I'm looking for. And so the format I'm looking for as far as response from you in the Dropbox is basically coming up with what we did tonight, and just really just this information here is all I'm looking for, like I have in the week 9. Inventory the assets, so give me what those are and their attributes, and it doesn't have to be exhaustive, just what you think is the hot topics after looking at the website and your own personal knowledge of everything here on campus. And then 2, determine what threat agents are there against those assets. So this is actually piggybacking off of number 1. And then 3, what vulnerabilities exist and can be exploited. And then from 1, 2, and 3, you're going to make a decision on what to do. Now we'll go to the scenario, which is the website I gave you for the MyRBC. And the MyRBC website, again, is found right at the home page of our site. So go ahead and go there real quick. You guys can go there with me if you want to. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so right from the home page here, and we do see MyRBC right there in the center of the page. So if we go there, okay, it does have some information, or at least a link there for password login management. You go into this page, and it does give some recent guidelines. You can no longer change passwords over the phone. For your convenience, we now offer password assistance on 3 campuses. Centrum Center, Learning Center, with a picture ID. You can also dial for further questions. You say, no, I don't know my current password. I think it goes through and gives you some questions here. We'll go ahead and go through it real quick. I'm going to say, no, I don't. Then it asks for my student ID and my last name. And I don't know how difficult, that's up to you to decide as a student. How difficult is this for you to get this information from other students, or is that something really difficult to do? If I'm not mistaken, the emails that you send are actually, the name of the email is not your name, it's actually your student ID before the @ symbol. Is that right? Is that correct? Okay, yeah. Does it come up with your name? Now, does it look, though, in the header? Can you look in the header of the email? Does it give you the S number in the header? You know how you can view the header of an email to view the whole email? Because, in an email, you can do this. Let's show what I'm talking about. When you create an email, right, you can do this. You guys probably know this, but you can do this type of thing. I can put in here Chuck Conkle, and then I can put in here my email address to the right of it, my email address here. And when the user sees it, they see Chuck Conkle, but in the header of the email, you still see and can grab the actual email address. Because it has to have somewhere in that from the real email address. You can't have just my surname in there, first name, last name. But you might be right. They might have changed that. But I think You guys might have an alias, I'm guessing, of your first initial last name, I would think, but that's something for you to investigate. So when you look in your email, you can actually look for the header information. Just view in your email, whatever email client you guys use, the header information of that email will show you the real from address. Okay, you might be seeing this, but I'm guessing you're going to see the real email somewhere in there, but you might not. They might have fixed that. Okay. So when a person registers RBC, they're given an account for RBC Eagle email, online services, and questions to ask yourself: is the RBC account password policy secure? How can this account policy be exploited? Do students know how to change the password? Do students know what a secure password is? And the only way you're going to find out these questions, this one you can do on your own probably, number one, right? But these here, well, even number two, you can do some on your own. I would think you'd do most of that on your own. 3 and 4, though, you're going to ask other students, basically, that you know in other classes, and just ask them, hey, do you know how to change the password for, how do I go about changing the password of my account for school? If they say, yeah, don't go any further with it. Just say, okay, thanks. I just thought I'd find out if I'm trying to figure out how to do it. Whatever. Just be clueless about it. So you can find it real quick. Do 4 or 5 people is all you got to do. No more than that. And just, or email a class. You can do that as well. You guys can email each other within Eagle and other classes and say, hey, does anybody know how to change the password? See what responses you get back. Okay? Also, you can ask this question too, within the same email maybe, if you wanted to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. When I change my password, I'd really like to know if what you guys use for a password. I need some ideas. Don't say secure password, though. Don't say that. Just say, I want some ideas on a password, what ideas I can have to make a password so I can remember it. You'll get some interesting responses, probably. Like, oh, I just use my phone number, or I just use my address, or I use my dog's name, or I use my wife's name, or I use my kid's name. The list goes on and on. So, but you will get responses of students that'll say, here's a secure password, here's what you want to do. Alphanumeric, special character. But those will probably be few and far between, I'm guessing. But again, I might be wrong. So again, you can survey people to find out those last 2 questions, or answers to those 2 questions. And the take home is to tackle the below steps concerning. These below steps are exactly what we just went over here, these 4 steps, concerning the RBC account password security. Any questions? And you guys can help each other on this too. You might, email each other and say, hey, I've been thinking about this. What do you think? Here's what I think we could do to help secure this or whatever. So if I see duplicate answers, I don't care, because that means you're talking about it. So if you want to talk about it and discuss it or whatever after class or on email, that's fine by me. Okay? Because the group efforts, the better you get better responses on this type of thing. Yeah. Do what now? To submit, I'm asking you to submit these 4, respond to these 4 questions, or these 4 informational things. So inventory the assets and attributes, determining threats, determining what vulnerabilities, and then number 4, just a paragraph of what you're going to do or not do about those threat or threat agents. And so remember, the steps on that one are as far as decisions, diminish, transfer, accept, or we added a new one on Tuesday, which was ignore it. And so you can say, okay, on this one, we're accepting it. On this one, we're diminishing it by passing out flyers at the beginning of the semester in the student center and a few classes or whatever. Transfer it. That one's where you actually could transfer that to maybe another semester. Decide, we're going to transfer that. We're going to transfer this to another time. We're going to floor it for another time, and then or accept it. It's going to stay that way. Does that help? So just a paragraph response on your decision of what you're going to do. So you can go more than that, but I would in the past that's what generally students have done. Just a paragraph response. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Well, if you do have questions, you can email me And what I will do with these, I do this every semester. I'll give a compiled response that you guys give me without your names on them to IT. I'll kind of compile some that are maybe different or even the same from last, 5, 6 semesters, because they do change because our security policies has changed a little bit. And some have been for the good, but some maybe not so much. And so you guys are generally pretty spot on what needs to change and how we can tackle it. It's one thing coming from a faculty member saying, here's what we should do, but when you guys are saying it, it leans a little bit more weight. And so, that makes sense? All right. Okay, well, that's it. That's all we've got. If you have any questions, come and see me. Otherwise, have a great weekend, and see everybody Tuesday. This is actually Sunday. Yep, it shouldn't take you that long. Yeah. Yeah, it shouldn't take you that long. Do what now?
Class is already over?
Yeah, class over.